Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Schola Hermetica. Today we'll be looking at the concept of the soul in the Vodou religion. Now, as far as terminology goes, I'm going to mostly be using the word Vodou in this video rather than Voodoo, as Vodou is the more politically correct name of the religion. But when referencing the traditions as still found in their native West Africa, I will also use the term Vodun with the N, and occasionally I may say Voodoo, especially in reference to the practices found in the United States, like the Vodou or Voodoo tradition in Louisiana. Of course, Vodou or Voodoo is a largely maligned religion that has been demonized so badly in the media and entertainment industries that I felt the need to present at least some information on the benign character of the religion and show that, yes, it is a religion and not some form of black magic or satanic cult as films from the 1980s would have us believe. Now, personally, I developed an interest in studying Vodou several years ago after playing the remastered version of an old adventure game called Gabriel Knight Sins of the Fathers. The game takes place in New Orleans and involves a detective trying to uncover the truth behind a series of killings called the Voodoo Murders, which leads him into discovering a powerful, wealthy voodoo society controlling the underbelly of New Orleans. With that, a quick shout out to Pushing Up Roses for her video on the game Gabriel Knight that led me to play it, and thus come to making this video. Check out her content if you're interested in adventure style games and reviews of 80s and 90s era television shows. I also greatly enjoyed and recommend the book The Serpent and the Rainbow, written by ethnobotanist Wade Davis and published in 1985. But don't watch the film that is very loosely based on this book, at least not if you're looking to actually learn anything about real Vodou. The film version was directed by Wes Craven, and I usually enjoy his films. I'm personally a huge 70s and 80s horror movie buff, but adapting Davis's book into a grotesque horror film where voodoo is portrayed in a stereotypically negative way was very disingenuous, to say the least. With that out of the way, now for a brief bit of background on the actual Vodou or Vodun religion. Vodun is a native religion of West Africa found especially in the countries of Benin, Ghana, and Nigeria. At its core, it is a mixture of ancestor worship and worship of native deities of the land and water known as Loas. The Vodun religion is famous, or to some infamous, for the use of spirit possession in their ceremonies. Westerners tend to see this as extremely taboo and have historically treated it as devil worship and demonic possession. But for the Vodunist, possession is a way to commune with the spirits and to give the spirits a conduit to perform miraculous actions in the physical world. When enslaved African peoples were taken to the New World colonies, they brought Vodun with them. Many of these African people from the countries like Ghana and Benin were taken to the French colonies, including Haiti and New Orleans. This led to the development of New World forms of Vodun that blended with folk Catholicism as a way to survive. Especially in Haiti, Vodou and Catholicism became thoroughly intertwined, with each Loa being equated to a Catholic saint or holy figure. Historically, this allowed Vodunists to practice their religion while appearing to be following the prescribed religion of their captors. A lot of the terminology and theological interpretation that I will be going over in this video originates with Haitian Vodou, so much of it is in Haitian French, and many of the concepts are given a sort of folk Christian identity. I will not be going over each and every Loa or deity honored in the Vodou religion, even though one of the things Vodou is probably most known for is its diverse array of spirits. The main focus of this video is the Vodou concept of the soul, but I always like to start with a bit of a cosmological background to express a bit of spiritual context. According to Haitian tradition, Bon Dieu, from French bon Dieu, meaning the good God, is the highest God, and in the perspective of Catholicized Haitian Vodou, he is the one true God, hence Haitian Vodou is considered monotheistic, at least superficially. Bon Dieu is more of an overarching or preeminent godhead rather than a deity per se, and is considered to be the ultimate source of life and creation. However, following Christian theology, Bon Dieu is considered to have created humanity in his image from clay and water. After Bondier, we have Damballa. Yes, Damballa, the deity from the Chucky movies. Now, the actual Damballa, who is also known as Damballa Wedo, is the Sky Father deity of West Africa. He is the father of the Loa and the creator of the world. He is often portrayed as a great white serpent. Under Catholicization, he is equated with the serpent of the staff of Moses. In Haitian French, the word for serpent that is used to describe Damballa is couleuvre, which specifically indicates non-venomous serpents. Though he was likely originally understood as the supreme god and father creator deity himself, due to Christianization in Haiti, Damballa is demoted to the role of a demiurge under Bondier. However, he is considered the first creation of Bondier and is the establisher of the cosmos, the stars, the earth, the planets, the mountains, and the valleys, which rest upon his 7,000 coils, and his shed skins produce the waters of the world. His role here corresponds closely to the cosmology of the Hermetic Poimandres, wherein the first god, the divine mind, produces a second, demiurgic mind to enact his will in creating the cosmos with the aid of the seven governors, with each of the seven lending their own individual powers to the demiurge. In this way, the demiurge establishes the created universe from the stars to the earth. The reference to Damballa's 7,000 coils is likely an inflated version of the same concept as the powers derived from the seven governors, as 7 has always been a popular holy number associated with creation myths and related to the number of the visible planets. Both Bondier and Damballa are understood as purely benevolent, reminding us of the equation of God with the divine good in the Hermetica, and both are seen as wise and loving, yet distant and detached from the created world. Damballa and Bondier are probably less separate entities and more cultural manifestations of the same motif of a supreme father god, and this is more evident in West African Vodou than in Catholicized forms of the religion. In the New World, Damballa is sometimes equated with the Holy Spirit of the Trinity. Like many Vodou deities, Damballa has many aspects who can function as deities in themselves. Two of the most important are Damballa Tokan, who represents manifest intellect. This is again similar to the equation of the highest god with pure intellect in the Hermetica. And the other is Damballa La Flambeau, the flame. This is Damballa as a being of fire, like in this to the demiurge being considered the god of divine fire in the Hermetica. Damballa's partner is the supreme goddess Aida Wedo, who is depicted in the form of a rainbow serpent, or simply the rainbow itself. She is not only the partner of Damballa, but his female half, as they share one spirit. They share one essence, homoousia, we might say. She is said to have appeared in the form of a rainbow after the first rain fell at the end of Damballa's first act of creation, and he took her as his wife. She is associated with all the major elements including thunder and wind, and is frequently depicted as an Ouroboros, a serpent eating its own tail, or paired with Damballa as two intertwining serpents. So, we can see relationships with Hermetic and alchemical symbology, since the Ouroboros in Greco-Egyptian texts originally was representative of the constant cyclical flow of the creative power of the Godhead, and the intertwining serpent motif is both reminiscent of the caduceus of Hermes and of the depictions of Isis and Serapis in late Egyptian religion, where they are depicted as intertwining serpents, Agathi Tyche and Agathos Daimon. Aida Wedo is considered to have existed prior to the creator goddess Mawu Lisa, who first formed mankind from clay, but she assisted Mawu in forming the earth, and is said to carry Mawu around in her mouth, which suggests that they are aspects of a single being. Aida Wedo and Mawu Lisa possibly were the mother goddesses of originally two separate West African civilizations whose stories became intertwined through cultural contact but never fully synchronized into a single mythic character. Like Damballa, Aida Wedo is more of a metaphysical being than one concerned with earthly life, though she is more involved in this world than perhaps Damballa tends to be. She teaches humanity the bonds between the spirit and the physical, and how to exist in a state of fluidity. Under Catholicization, she became equated to the Virgin Mary in the form of Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception. The highest being in the spiritual hierarchy is Bondye, at least in the Haitian form of the religion, and Dambalawedo and Ayidawedo would represent the same position in West Africa and are understood as just below or even as aspects of Bondye in New World Vodou. Second are the Zansetyo, or ancestors, who dwell with Bondye in heaven. In the third rank are the Loa, or under Catholicization, the saints and angels to whom they are equated. The Loa are understood to be the living mysteries of the Godhead. In Africa, the full term is Olua, but in the New World, the pronunciation has been clipped into Loa, which has the same pronunciation as the French word for law. Hence, Haitians understand the Loa as embodiments of divine laws. After the Loa are the Gedes, i.e., the souls of the dead generally, and finally, there are the living. Now, the Vodou concept of the soul is very similar to that held by the 19th century Theosophists, which I covered in my previous video on the history of the aura. You can check that video out in the link below. In Vodou, the soul has 4 distinct parts. Some say that there are 5 parts, but one of these is technically a kind of spirit guide rather than part of the soul itself. And on that note, there are overall at least 3 types of spirit guide that aid the soul. The highest part of the soul, the divine monad of one's being, and identical to the causal body or divine body of the theosophical framework, is the zétoile, or zétoile, from French étoile, meaning star. The zétoile is the core of the individual soul. It is likened to a star in a cosmic ocean, and is the same as the individual monad, or the jiva, of Jainist philosophy that was picked up by the Theosophists, and the algoides, or radiant form of the Neoplatonists. Each zétoile is a spark of divine light existing as its own little reality. The zétoile, or star, does not incarnate itself, but rather radiates its energies downward into matter, and this radiation is what we understand as our personal soul, which in the Vodou tradition is known as the Bon Ange. The Bon Ange, from French Petit Bon Ange, meaning little good angel, is the soul in the everyday sense, the seat of human mentality and will. It is equivalent to Ledbetter's concepts of the mental body and the astral body, especially the latter, as this is the part of the soul that carries individuality, past life memories, and spiritual or magical capabilities. It is this part of the soul that Vodunists see as most vulnerable to magical attack. The Bon Ange is also the aspect of the soul that must face judgment for its actions in life, before God, or Bondye, and the lesser gods, the Loas. Then there is the Gros Bon Ange, from the French Gros Bon Ange, meaning great good angel. This is the spirit body, or etheric double. This is the life force that animates the body, equatable to the first 2 or 3 subtle bodies of Charles Ledbetter's schematic of the aura, and what I termed the auric field in my previous video. This is the living energy of the body itself. It has a dependency on the true soul, or Bon Ange, at least in life, but the Bon Ange does not require the Gros Bon Ange outside of physical incarnation. Thus, the energies of the Gros Bon Ange dissipate with the death of the body, for the most part anyway. The fourth component of the soul is the Nam, or Esprit. These are derived from the words for soul and spirit in French. This is understood as pure vital energy, the pneuma of the classical philosophers, or the prana of India, or chi or ki of the Far East. This is the life essence. The individual soul is made of this, but that part which has passed into the body as Gros Bon Ange will pass on into the soil, the trees, the water, the air as the body decomposes. Thus, life essence never ceases to be, but continues on perpetually in new forms. After an individual's death, it is believed that the Gros Bon Ange will reside in the waters of the underworld. After a year and a day have passed, a ceremony called Wete Monandlo, calling the dead from the waters, is performed. What is left of the gros bonnage is pure esprit or spirit. This is gathered into a special jar called a govie. This reclamation of the spirit is considered similar to the birth of a child. The spiritual energy in the govie will be nurtured with food and other everyday items, and will then be released into the forests and grottos to await another rebirth. After 16 such incarnations, the energies return to Dambala Wedo and become part of the undifferentiated spiritual energy of the cosmos, known as Jo, which I take to be the Vodunist term for ether. Now, accompanying the soul are three kinds of spirit guide. The most important, and sometimes labeled as a part of the soul itself, is the metet, from French méthode tête, master of the head. This is one's spiritual guardian who is responsible for helping to establish the incarnate life of the soul. It acts as a protector and overseer of the individual. Generally, the metet is understood as not merely a spirit guide, but specifically a ruling god or lua, who has responsibility for the individual. Hence, it is also known as a lua metet, or master lua of the head. However, the individual is under no obligations to worship the lua who acts as their metet, but can work with and worship whatever deity they so choose. There is also a lua racine, meaning root lua. This term refers to the deity connected with one's ancestors, either through bloodline or from the place one's family came from. It can even be the local deity, the Genius Loci, of the area one now lives in. In some cases, it is rather a powerful ancestor associated with establishing the family line. There is then the term Wonsignon, which refers to other spirit guides or influences other than the chief guardian represented as the Metet. Sometimes these are other Lua whom the Vodunist works with, but can be any spirits that one works with or frequently calls upon. Now, admittedly, I am not a Vodou practitioner myself, nor do I have personal experience with the culture or traditions. So if I have misrepresented something, I apologize and hope that anyone who has more personal knowledge of the tradition can correct me in the comments. In any case, I really hope that this has been insightful to anyone watching this video and inspires them to look into this fascinating religion for themselves, or perhaps just visiting New Orleans as I hope to get around to doing myself in order to experience Western North American voodoo for themselves. And as always, thank you for watching.